are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So, in this week's episode, we'll be talking about uh, more so than in previous weeks regarding how the EV market has what do you call this has exploded in a sense, in a good way, so to speak. We have companies left and right that are taking advantage of this sudden surge for demands for a shift from a combustible engine to more environmentally products such as electric vehicles. Anyway, so for the first one, we have a company who's offering a fast charging battery here, not just Tesla's supercharger here. So we'll talk about that. Next is Ford's foray into the electric vehicle is surging. So the electric F-150. And then next is we'll be talking about self-driving vehicles. So it's not just Tesla's capability for able to drive itself, but also companies that are trying to offer their services in terms of taxi servicing is now being offered now in San Francisco. Next, we have some concerns regarding those technologies because they all rely on using batteries here, right? Question here is, what happens to those said batteries once they have reached their end life cycle, so to speak, right? And take note, those batteries are not easily recycled as one would think, right? So we'll talk about that. And next, we'll talk about, is investing uh, using the platform that it is Amazon to your benefit or detrimental to your business here. So we have an example here where a company used the platform and then left. So what was the reason behind it? So it's an interesting discussion here. And finally, in some local news regarding what would think that being in YouTube, if you've done it correctly, can be lucrative here. But in our case here, those influencers that we call them, uh, who did not pay their tax, has caught the attention of the BIR, or the Bureau Internal Revenue Agency here in the country, and they are asking the questions: are they paying their taxes here in terms of registering as a business, and why are they uh, trying to avoid paying their tax here? Anyway, all of that in this week's episode here. So to start off, as mentioned, so the company is offering something new or something better, not just Tesla offering an electric vehicle as well as a full self-driving or autopilot vehicle. But the main issue for many of those electric vehicle is because not many of them, or most of them, has an issue with regards to its recharging capability, because it takes I don't know, hours or even a full day for some to get it backed up. Not just similar to how if you gas it up for fuel, and you just go to a gas station and then automatically you could replenish it in just, let's say, a few minutes, and then you're on your way. So question here is, a company is offering a, or has patented an electric battery for its fast charging capability here. So we have what do you call this? An article that's from the Driven.io, wherein it says that it's extremely fast charging. The electric vehicle battery is one step closer for its first ever patent application here. So let's take a closer look. So here, the company we're talking about is StoreDot, which is an Israeli company which has filed a patent for its extremely fast charging capability here, which is, I think it's tremendous and step in the right direction here. Obviously, uh, it's not yet fully formed with regards to the kinks here, because there were articles or reports in past, with Tesla battery packs, catching on fire if you're charging it overnight. So that can be catastrophic if you're a Tesla owner here. But on the battery side, at least there are several companies looking into this as to how to shorten the time. I think the supercharger for Tesla can do it in less than an hour. I think 40 minutes is it. Anyway, so what they're trying to do here is they're calling it the XFC. It's a new approach to battery chemistry, will be a step change for automotive industry. So their goal here is to make it open source for those interested parties here. So it's not just them that can access this, but also other companies here as well. There are other studies. Let me see. Yeah, there were studies mentioned before that drivers, even I, is apprehensive on adopting electric vehicles with this simple reason because of the limitations of if your device, or in this case your vehicle, runs out of battery, how can charge it? It's not as if you could just find the charging station is a plenty in many regions, especially in rural areas. So the adoption is the main concern, and obviously the battery is one of the main issues here. And if companies can find a way to solve this issue, I think would go a long way in terms of people being more receptive in terms of adopting the said technology here. And as obviously, it's not just the limitations of the battery, but also there are times where recharging experience it's not up to a regular combustible engine here. So until such a time it can be similar or even better, wherein I think you can see progress in many smartphone chargers, wherein they're finding ways. I think like Xiaomi's offering that super fast charging. Obviously it's a smaller device, so it's a different application, but if they can translate that technology, which by the way Xiaomi is foraying into electric vehicles anyway, into actual larger scale vehicles here. And according to the CEO, Dr. Doron Meyersdorf, I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly, he goes on to say that this is an important step for the EV global community, as it will allow all of us to charge faster with very minimal changes to the current infrastructure and future development process. So this is why we believe it is critical to offer this world-leading innovation to other organizations on an open source basis. So will this be beneficial for the industry here? So time can only tell here. But what's interesting here, he goes on to say that obviously the goal here is to reduce the current charging time by 50%. So if it takes several hours, if it from 8 hours to 4 hours, that's tremendous, but it's still a long time. But if they can cut it somewhere, less than an hour to less than 30 minutes, so people, with nowadays people are growing impatient with, they want to see instant result. I think it would go a long way for people to actually adopt it much faster here. And let's see here. According to the graph here, it shows how the technology works here. So let's see. Let's go back. Where was it? There you go. Can you see here the graph? There you go. So you can see here that in terms of the graph, it illustrates how its technology reduces the charging time of lithium-ion batteries here. So the goal here is by using a silicon metalloid, is it metalloid? Metalloid. Anyway, metalloid-based anode material instead of a graphic-based material that allows an initial higher current that it builds as a booster feature here. So the purpose here is to give that sudden boost of energy or electricity, but obviously not harming the battery and causing fires here, which no one wants to happen. That you can do it in a safe manner, and then get the charging time you know in a lower time here. Well, that's the ideal here. Whether that would translate into actual application here, obviously it's still wait and see here. And according to the company, they go on to mention that the communication between the vehicle's XFC, they're calling it, the battery and charging system, means that the cell can be charged faster. So safely accepting a higher current to boost its charging capability, and obviously heating is another issue, so they want to be able to manage that as well. I think similar to the concept of the fast charging with your smartphones with your charging adapter here. And what's interesting here is they're going to mention that it won't cost the metaphorical earth that much here. And according to the CEO, he goes on to mention that making its XFC batteries could be in fact more cheaper than traditional lithium-ion batteries, which is a difficult difficult item to source, especially in a grander scale as demand for electric vehicles picks up. So in this case, that the silicon can be cheaper than graphite here, which is having a more plentiful resource here would be tremendous here. Anyway, but one of the major hurdles that the company has mentioned is scale is needed to process the silicon nanoparticles in order to create the XFC anode chemistry here. So obviously, still a long ways before we can actually see the end result of the product. But nonetheless, one can be optimistic about here, because if companies keep on innovating, looking for ways to improve technology, I see no reason why in the next few years or even decades that the future will soon come sooner rather than later here. Obviously, currently, right now, a lot of companies, especially technology companies, are dealing with the limited supply chain with regards to the chipset from that's being produced by TSMC and other companies, and until it settles down, the shortage of supply chains will continue to be a problem here moving forward. So hopefully, this can be sorted out, and we'll see what happens next. So for our next story here, as I mentioned, continuing with our theme here with electric vehicles, Ford, one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world, is releasing their latest foray to the electric vehicle or EV with the release of their F-150 Lightning, which is an EV vehicle. And according to the article at electric.co, they mentioned that they have to double their production for the EV vehicle, and it's not even enough. So meaning the demand for their vehicles is skyrocketing now. Is it because of the brand? Is it of the model? Or is it the EV vehicle? Or all three, as I mentioned here. Anyway, so let's see here. Now, what's interesting here is, so the demand has skyrocketed. So as mentioned, so they're planning, or they're trying to double their production so that it can meet the demands here. And because of the strong demand, as mentioned early, they've been racking up uh, more than 120,000 customers reservations alone. So the vehicle is supposed to be released by 2022. So that's a year from now. And the question here is, will they be able to ramp up their production here, thinking that the demand would be as high as before? And what's interesting here, their plan was to ramp up production by 15,000 units by 2022, and then 55,000 units by 2023, 80,000 by 2024. And question is, will they have the capacity, the resources, and the manpower to handle this volume of production? So the target is to get in excess of 160,000 by 2025. So that's a lot of vehicles going to be produced in your production line here. So what's interesting here is they've already increased their production way back last year in November by adding 350 more production jobs to increase the production by 50% already. And obviously that is not enough still. And their plan to go or foray into EV vehicles was still minuscule compared to their gas powered counterpart, but still the growing demand or preferences for people to adopt electric vehicles has been steadily growing with the help of Tesla's popularity here, as mentioned. And question here is, will the company be able to meet the demands? And actually, it's not just the automotive here in the case of Ford, because there's also the chip shortage that we keep on mentioning over and over, and it has a big impact in the technology, the computer business, as well as computer industry, as well as in the automotive industry as well. So question here is, will they be able to meet the demands here? And obviously, if consumers are any if they're demanding of getting their products on a timely manner, and if they don't get it, they might get it with another company here and so forth. And what's interesting here, in the case of Ford, they're one of the companies who's been dragging their feet in regards to in their foray into electric vehicles here for several years, because demand is not strong, especially in the North American region. So, and even according to the CEO of Ford, you have Mr. Mark Fields questioning the realities. Well, the present reality has shown that the demand is there and it's growing still, and obviously with those limitations, if they can address it in terms of the charging capability, the battery issues, the safety ones, apart from the driverless features, the EV vehicle should be a viable alternative to gas powered engine here. Now, how long would that be adopted here in our country is a totally big question here, because electric vehicle and flooding in our nation is not a great combination here, unless it's well sealed, protected, that no matter if it's submerged, in a sense. I think I forgot which vehicle was it. Is it Tesla? I forgot what company. They were able to showcase a EV truck. I forgot which one. Anyway, that they can submerge up to a certain point. I think just below the hood of the truck, and they're able to pass through the obstacle there. But we have to wait and see. And question here is, now that the demand has been growing, I'm sure companies like Ford or even GM and other companies are following suit, and obviously some are already in development or in production, which goes to show that what do you call this, that Tesla is by far ahead of the competition in terms of the EV market, in terms of delivering a polished driving experience here. I wouldn't say it's perfect if you're Tesla, but they're by far leaps and bounds ahead of their competition here. Next, we have here, speaking of self-driving vehicles, so now a company in the name of Waymo, who's offering their services in the San Francisco Bay Area here. Excuse me. So according to the article here, they mentioned that the Waymo is bringing the self-driving taxis to San Francisco with a catch. So let's see here. So Waymo, which is owned by Alphabet, hello Google, is offering rides to its autonomous vehicle to select passengers in San Francisco. Again, which goes back to the main concerns here. If you're a passenger here, I think they're offering for free, but is the fully autonomous vehicles already arrived, or is it still in the process? Because my concern here is, if you notice, just like one of the vehicles here that's going to be driving itself around the city here, they're still trying to gain information so that when it drives around the metro or around the city, it's still collecting data and updating itself. Now, question here is it 100% safe? Can you rely on technology to drive itself? You don't see, an airplane driving itself. You still need someone to drive it here, right? And that's why in the case of Waymo, there will still be a safety driver behind the wheel, okay? Which is, I think, a great adoption here. So even though the difficulty, especially if you live in the San Francisco area, it's very hilly and there are dense streets, which is notoriously difficult for autonomous vehicles. So obviously they have to handle those difficulties and maneuver within those restrictions here. Now, Waymo as a company has been has been around since 2019 here. So obviously, without passengers, I think the advantage of having Alphabet or Google as your mother company to help out, the locations here, how to navigate within the city with the mapping that it does. But the question here is the technology part to similar to how Tesla is developing their driverless vehicles here. And obviously, the concern here is they're using a select group, calling the trusted testers, which is kind of concerning if you're one of them, because what if you were to be caught in an accident, meaning, sorry for you that you were in this accident, so that the company here can benefit from, from its experience, so that the machine learning could learn from it, from its mistakes, so to speak, and at the cost of, of human lives. It's kind of scary if you think about it. Anyway, so anyone could sign up for this Waymo's app, so you can take rides using an electric Jaguar SUV, so pretty fancy. And then they'll begin with the initial group and welcome more riders in the coming weeks. So their catch here is you're going to ride this for free, but at your own risk if you think about it, because will there be a what do you call this, non-sue disclosure or something? Anyway, so question is, how long before we can actually truly see a driverless vehicle running around, that can fetch passengers and drive them to and from different points of location here. Anyway, so San Francisco is one of the largest home base for the ride-hailing companies in the world. You have Uber and as well as Lyft operating in those streets here. So question is, how long before it would be adopted in other regions in the United States, or even other countries in other regions here as well. So looking forward to that day. Anyway, wait, there's something wrong with the bit rate. Right here. Anyway, so let's continue. Next, we have, again, with regards to the EV vehicles popularity and adoption of many vehicles using EV in the future. The question here is the battery here. What will happen to them in the near future once they're out of sorts or out of use already by the time they become obsolete or have outlived its usefulness here? And it's very concerning here what will happen to them because of its severe repercussions to our environment here. And according to the article at theguardian.com, millions of electric car batteries will retire in the next decade. So it's coming real soon. Question is, what will happen to them? So according to the article, they predicted that 145 million vehicles on the road by 2030, and there's going to be a lot of batteries that's going to be on the roads. And question is, what will happen to them and how is it going to be recycled here, because no matter how beneficial the electric vehicles is, but how they source those batteries is still not yet environmentally friendly, and disposing those batteries is another critical issue nonetheless. So it's going to be a potential environmental hazard or time bomb for your batteries here. Imagine the smartphones that we have here, and then multiply the number of batteries that it needs to use to be able to operate an EV vehicle here. So there's an estimate here that more than 12 million tons of lithium-ion batteries are expected to retire between now and 2030. So that's 7 years from now. So there's going to be a lot of garbage here. So think about it. Inside those batteries includes lithium content, nickel, and cobalt. And obviously, these are not ideally in terms of how it's being sourced, in terms of its environmental impact and human rights issues that on where they're being sourced, in which country and which region here. So there's going to be a mountain of electronic waste and how it's going to be recycled. And it's not as if like food or clothing that you can easily recycle them from one form to another. But batteries like this one, it's going to be tricky and hazardous to say the least. And the main goal here, as mentioned, is what else can they do with this existing technology here. So another way is by creating as a recycling business, and obviously having research centers to figure out how they can disassemble those dead batteries and use it for other applications here. So the longer that we can use it, not just in years or one decade, or maybe several more decades, would be ideal here. And obviously recycling shouldn't be the first option here. According to James Pennington, who leads the World Economic Forum Circular Economy program here, and he goes on to say that the best thing to do at first is to keep things in use for longer. So obviously, how can you squeeze out every ounce of batteries usage here will be detrimental here. And obviously, Can it be transferred to other devices, other machines, or can it be easily replaced from your old EV battery pack in your vehicle and then just replace it similar to how AA batteries works? Maybe that would be another way of looking at it. And another one is, according to Jessica Richter, who is a researcher for environmental policy at Lund University. She goes on to say that there is a lot of battery capacity left at the end of its first years in electric vehicles. So I think I saw an article where it mentions that, over the course of several years, the maximum rate that you could fully charge your battery decreases over time, right? And it would deplete maybe 90, 80, or 70%. So at the end of its life cycle, there will still be some sort of battery capacity left. So the question is, what can you use it for that, so you don't have to throw it away? So if you cannot use it for your vehicle, but you could use it for something else, so maybe for your smart devices, so your laptops, smartphones, maybe even PC, or you could think of a lot of applications here. Especially, I think they also mentioned that they could use it for excess generated by solar or wind farm. So that's another way of looking at it. But the question here is, how quickly can it be adopted? Obviously, not everyone in the world is adopting what I call this, using solar powered technologies here. Yeah, as mentioned here, it's only about 60% of lead acid batteries are used in vehicles, according to Richard Fuller, who leads a nonprofit for Pure Earth. And another 20% are used for storing excess solar power, particularly in African countries here. So, again, so the dilemma here is how to maximize usage of those batteries, and how can you actually recycle it, you know, by the time it is out of circulation in the market here. And interesting here, lead acid batteries only last 2 years, and obviously, temperature has a big factor to it. So if there's heat issues, if you live in warmer climates, they degrade more quickly. So what happens to your battery? What facilities can accommodate those transition will be, obviously a good source for businesses here moving forward. And normally, which is not safe, that typically people would just crack open the battery and look for, whatever materials that can be utilized for, or repurposing those materials, and melted down in unsafe environment, which is not ideal. And obviously it exposes uh, unnecessary harmful chemicals to your surrounding, which is not good. And obviously we don't know what the implications here until we see the consequence of those indecisions here. Anyway, so the key here maybe is, not just to recycle the product at the end of the day, but also find ways to be able to repurpose them. And obviously there are still big technical challenges here, because right now we're still trying to find ways to build supply batteries for our vehicles. And question here is, the end duration here, we are only, skimming the surface, so to speak, and only time can tell. And obviously you need complex designs that recyclers must navigate to be able to repurpose those components moving forward here. And it's not going to be easy, and that's the challenge for many companies here. And for those companies who can adopt and find ways to repurpose them, could make tons of profit here. Anyway, segueing now to businesses. And if you notice, one would think that, what do you call this, using the platform that is Amazon would be beneficial if you're a business owner here. So if you're selling a product or service, no, not service, just product in general, you get a vast array of buyers in their platform. But that's not always the case here. And as we go on to this article, just going to show that, at the end of the day, does Amazon benefit more for the business themselves, or are they just in it to benefit from them? And we'll take a closer look here as an example here of a company who almost lost it all, and was able to somewhat recover in a sense here. Anyway, according to the article here at theverge.com, so as demand for bikes surged, Amazon, the platform that they were in, got in the way here. So one would think it should be beneficial, right? If you're partnering with, well, technically partnering is a very loose term here. Partnering with the platform giant or the e-commerce giant of Amazon here. Anyway, a company here that's it's called Pacific Northwest Components, which is a bike company that offers bike parts or mountain bike parts to that's selling handlebars, levers, and whatever's. So what they did was use Amazon as a platform to sell their products to their consumers, whether other resellers or consumers. Here, one would think that that would grow your business quickly. Well, that's not the case here, and uh, in the long run here, according to Curzon or Aaron Curzon, which owns the company, what's interesting is a lot of business, even their business, turned back on the Amazon platform by removing their products from the platform's marketplace. It's not just them. Some known brands, you have Nike, we've discussed before, IKEA and Birkenstock have also pulled their merchandise because of the business practices that Amazon is doing and even competing with those companies in a sense and proliferating counterfeit products, which is they're always trying to say to themselves that they're absolved of any responsibility, but the fact that you have that platform says a lot. But anyway, another is the lack of access to customer data, because obviously data is king. So obviously Amazon is trying to hold on to those data and keep it for themselves so that it can benefit them rather than benefit their partners here. In this case, the company Pacific Northwest here. So the question you always have to ask yourself: is it worth it to partner with this company? Because as the article goes on to say, it cedes control to the company. It's just like outsourcing different parts of your organization. In this case, you're outsourcing the marketing here, in a sense, and the reach here, because you're trusting that Amazon will do their part to help you out in the long run here, which is truly not the case. As mentioned in other instances, where if Amazon sees a product that they think is going to be beneficial, profitable for them, they're going to undercut those businesses by creating their own product, competing with them, and undercutting them in terms of the pricing. And obviously, Amazon as a company has the resources to even sell that product at a loss, so that the company that they're competing will go out of business first, so that whoever remains, which is them, they can jack up the prices again. So that's just one of the main issues here. And according to Mr. Curzon here, he goes on to say that the responsibility of running a small business has been difficult here, and obviously the pressure of being able to deliver those products in a timely manner or even a faster manner, it's going to be problematic, especially with the pandemic that's going on right now. So what he did was reallocate the inventory to independent bike shops in an effort to save the industry as a whole. Because what many business doesn't realize is in offering Amazon as an alternative way to sell your products here, you're undercutting actual retail businesses, the brick and mortar businesses in your area there. And once you cut them out, the resources or the inventories are all tied up there. So the one who benefits here only is typically Amazon here. And for consumers, the customers who plans to buy those products, especially in a very specialized product here for bikes, you need to buy a certain type of handlebars, gears, cogs, whatever. uh, there's no individual here who can help you, guide you into buying process, because the difference in the buying process in a retail shop is because there's a seller here, a person who's going to help you, manage or go through the process of what are you buying, what type of bike, why do you need it for, so this is the parts that you need. So it makes it easier for your buying experience here. And obviously ceding the control here, it does away with the human interaction there. And what the company is planning to do is to regain control of its customer service and its return. Now, obviously, there's going to be a significant impact in their bottom line, and the company mentions that it's going to lose as much as 20 to 30% of their sales overnight. So, obviously, losing millions, tens of millions of users in the platform is going to be detrimental to any businesses. So, question is, can you afford to leave? But the problem is, once you keep on staying there, it's just like you're on quicksand. you're still syncing no matter what. The question here is, do you sync now or do you sync later on? And according to the company, that's why they want to have that control again rather than cede it to Amazon here. So they're willing to put that risk so that they can still recover whatever it's left in their uh, in their market here, so to speak. So once they did that, their goal is to help those independent bike shops so that uh, so partnering with different businesses within the biking industry would tremendously benefit their business and other businesses and the consumers at the end here. So just an example here, being able to do that, they are not able to quickly recover in terms of their sales. That's going to take time, but nonetheless, in terms of the return issue here has gone significantly down because obviously return fraud is another issue that Amazon hasn't been able to address here. Delivering products and then return issues, and then obviously this is all levied upon to the what do you call this, to the companies or to the sellers here. So if you're a company here, the onus is on the company rather than the platform who's doing a terrible job here. And as you've seen in previous articles that return products are not returned to the company, it's just thrown away for waste or even for donation, which is a waste of products here rather than saving the materials and so forth. Anyway, another issue is the maintaining the participation of being a seller fulfilled prime. So in the program here, Amazon requires sellers ship products directly on a speedy timeline. So obviously you have the 1 day shipping here. So rather than using their warehouse to store your product, then it bypasses the cost of storing your product and then deliver it. So again, it technically absorbs or reduces the cost for Amazon here, and it puts more pressure on the businesses to deliver and using the name of Amazon here as the catalyst here, so to speak. And obviously, if you're a small business, you don't have the resources. That's why you're using Amazon, the platform in the first place, right? And sometimes to the point that the company is selling some products where more than half the price sale price went to shipping, so it becomes more expensive to sell the product on the cheap than what it's initially intended for. And that's even before the Amazon's cut commission here. So again, so why are you even helping the platform here if they're not helping you in the first place? Anyway, so another one, another business you have, Usas. Kazukinas, founder of e-commerce research firm Marketplace Pulse, mentions also that Amazon has effectively killed seller fulfilled prime because making it nearly impossible for sellers to be able to do their job and offer this service here. And again, as mentioned, if you're trying to stay afloat here, staying in the Amazon platform may be more harmful to you than beneficial in the long run here, because as you notice here, Amazon has been the only sold platform in the United States that's very popular. It provides convenience, but at what expense here? So is it cheaper? Yeah, in a sense, but they could always dictate the price later on once competition is out of the picture here. So at the end of the day here, question here is, like another business owner here, we have Sarah Ford, who has a Texas-based luxury boot brand called Ranch Road Boots. She mentions that she underestimated the additional cost of succeeding to the platform. So it already accounted to 50% of their sales, but it took a couple of years for them to get revenue back once they left the platform here. Now, do they have any regrets? According to the owner here, Miss Ford mentions that they have no regrets. So lesson learned here for many businesses: think twice before partnering with any company. Is it beneficial for you? Don't be just, what do you call this, be enamored with the possibility of engaging all of those consumers in their platform, because not all of them will be buying your products at a given point, and the platform themselves are looking at your product and if it's beneficial to them, so they can track those datas, who are their target audience, how much, and what the product is. You're just giving your blueprint to their company, and they could take advantage and sell the product for themselves, right? And unless there's a protection between the sellers and the consumers, there's no responsibility attached to the platform, which is Amazon, then the longer it manifests, it's not going to be beneficial for businesses as a whole in general here. Anyway, finally, for our last story here, some local news as mentioned. So, one would think that being in social media, could be lucrative if done it correctly. So I haven't reached that point, but trying to get to. So with your support, anyway. According to this article, philstar.com, they mentioned that a celebrity couple, you may be familiar with this one, who recently deleted their YouTube channel under the BIR probe. So obviously, for those who are making a killing in terms of generating revenue for their businesses, has caught the eye of the BIR, or the Bureau in Internal Revenue Agency here, and they announced that they will run after the YouTube vlogging couple, even though they deleted their channel here. So, question here is, why are they? Does deleting your account here absolve you of paying taxes here, so to speak? And obviously, according to the government, they're not absolved of doing that, regardless if you're an individual, going into business or not. Anyway, so according to the BIR, they've noticed they've earned. So it's a very lucrative business that they've endeavored, earning as much as 50 to 100 million pesos in the past 2 years. So not bad, for the couple. But obviously, not paying the taxes necessary for operating a business if they've not registered. Obviously, one would say, is it necessary to establish a business? Obviously, the benefits of establishing a business is, in the case of protection, rights, and so forth, you'll be protected by the government. Now, obviously, on the downside here is you have to pay your taxes, but earning 50 100 million pesos is, for paying a small tax amount, I think it's beneficial. Now, why would this particular couple not pay their taxes? Now, maybe concerns is, uh, where does our taxes go to? And obviously, I'm a big advocate that transparency from our government, where our taxes are being levied upon, which is supposed to be to help our society, improve education, improve our health, especially in this current difficult climate, and improve our transportation system to make it more convenient for the tens of millions of blue collar or white collar worker in our country to get from one place to another, because majority still don't own their own vehicle here. And but what's interesting here, what the Deputy Commissioner for Legal Group, Attorney Marisa Cabreros, is stating that social media influencers have the obligation to register, which is true. It is our responsibility as a citizen of any country to pay their taxes here. And there are benefits of being a legal business, so you can partner with other businesses and you can have the legal protection of the government or law here. But what she goes on to say, I does not make sense. But anyway, listen to this. Wala ho kayong dapat ikatakot. Yung obligasyon po ng pagrerehistro ay magkaiba po yan sa pagbayad ng buwis, which I totally disagree. The fact that you are registering your business is already admitting that you have to pay your taxes here. So obviously, you want to be on the legal side here so that you're not called a tax evader here and you're a legal citizen of this country here. And especially for any business, whether it's a small, micro, or medium-sized enterprise, you still need to be registered here to be afforded. The whole point here is to pay those taxes. Government should incentivize businesses to have tax breaks, so to speak, maybe incentives to be able to borrow from the bank, raise capital, and things of that nature here. But obviously, that's not the case here, which is totally discussion altogether. Anyway, so for the business side here, regardless if you have a physical business or in this case in social media, you still have to be responsible. I understand the trepidations, the limitations of our government. No government is perfect, but at the end of the day, it's still our responsibility here. If you have to pay a small amount to be able to continue to do this rather than hide from the government, then you're not being responsible here, and it doesn't escape the fact that they know who you are here. uh, so whether they don't know them or they know, which according to the article, it's the couple of Camille Trinidad and Jason Manabat, also known as Jamil. Actually, my wife knows them more than I did, but the article caught my attention in terms of, it sounds funny that trying to evade taxes would absolve you from paying taxes. Not really. So it's more on the protection from the individual or for the business to do their part here. Obviously, we have to put pressure from our governments to actually be more transparent in terms of where our taxes do actually go, because we don't often see where the money goes through, rather than I don't want to say, but either way, and transparency is always much better in terms of communicating to your citizens in our country that the money, the taxes that we pay are going to the actual uh, projects that's necessary for our country to grow and prosper as a nation here. Anyway, that concludes our discussion for today. Anyway, thank you again for watching. For more business news, stay here at Business Focus Live. Or maybe you can check out my other segments. You can catch my business update every Wednesdays. And if you enjoy these types of video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. As always, I'll see you in the next one. By the way, if you're interested in the full article in any of the topics discussed here, I'll leave the link in the description below. So don't forget, I'll see you again next time, same channel. Take care and stay safe.